Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where it's time to take a small detour from the construction of the mirror station that we have going on here. Because at this point, our next module goes right here. And you might ask, what module is that? The answer is the docking adapter to make it easier to dock up the space shuttle. Which of course means we need a space shuttle, or at least a prototype space shuttle. So that's going to be necessary. And it's probably going to take a while to get that going, to be honest. At least a couple of episodes. And to get up here, it'll take a little bit as well. It's going to be a bit complicated. So for now, I want to undock over here. However, this has very, very little electric charge. So we can undock here. We're going to need to enter hibernation up here, I think. And we can have this reaction wheel turned on. Let's undock. I don't know if we're going to have fuel up here, or rather not fuel. I don't know if we're going to have any capacity to actually get this turned. We do, although electric charge is a problem. Okay, let's just get aligned, and once we fire up our engines, no problem whatsoever. So we're in a decent spot to fire up here, so let's do so. We just need to deorbit this, so that is exactly what we're going to do. We don't need to get rid of this right now. I just want to get it out of the way. So let's get it deorbited and we'll let it crash on in. And then we'll head back and start working on our shuttle. It's going to be interesting. Okay, so that's deorbited. Let's head on back to the Space Center at this point. So, shuttle design. I was not actually planning to do this today because it's going to be a whole thing. Let's get at least a sketch of it, and we'll put it out on the pad and see how it flies. The offset thrust of the thing is what's going to be interesting. No doubt about that. So let's hop into the VAB here. And yeah, this is going to be very, very, very interesting. So we can see here on this photo approximately what we're going to be going for here. So this is just a tank, right? It uses these 3 shuttle engines, which look a lot like vectors, actually. And then it's got the strap-on SRBs. But you can see just how offset the thrust is, and that these are angled in order to compensate for that. That's going to be a whole thing. Let's get ourselves at least a prototype of this thing going. So let's hop into the VAB here. I'm going to start with the cockpit, obviously. We'll get the orbiter kind of set up here. So the Mark III cockpit is obviously intended to be the shuttle cockpit. I think that's pretty obvious. Or like the Mark II or something. But we're going to go with the Mark III. And then I'm just thinking, yeah, this is basically just a nose cone that goes on here. So we would go into aerodynamics. And for now, we can always tweak this later, but for now, we're going to put on... What size of nose cone would this be? Definitely not that. It would be not that one either. So, like a standard size nose cone? Definitely not a small nose cone. Not very small or tiny either. Where's the standard nose cone? I'm probably just blind here. I mean, there's this guy. That kind of works, but I think the Type B is probably what's intended for this use, and definitely not like that, though. Okay. No, I hate it. Thanks. Okay, so we're just going to go with the aerodynamic nose cone for now, although we're going to make it dark in color. That'll definitely work-ish. Actually, gray and orange works better. So we can do something along the lines of that. And then we would need some fuselage on here. So looking at this, we can see that this is definitely Mark III, which isn't surprising at all. We would go for liquid fuel fuselages. Really? I don't know about that. These only have liquid fuel in them, no oxidizer. And it would need to be rotated like this. But these only have liquid fuel in them. So I don't necessarily love that. We also need to keep in mind that there is a bay back here on the shuttle. We might be omitting that for this exact moment. We'll see. These have liquid fuel and oxidizer. Okay. So, I mean, there's something kind of like this, but that's definitely not what we're going for. We're definitely not going for that one. I've never built the space shuttle before. This is going to be interesting. Let's just search for Mark III. And let's see what we've got here. So this is the cargo bay for the Mark III, right? So this would get flipped around kind of like this. and we can see that would be what we'd be going for the cargo bay there. Although we'd probably go for this larger variant. And then there's this cargo ramp. We'll probably omit the cargo ramp for now. So, this would be the cargo bay. Sounds good. And then we would need some fuel down here. Now, all of this is pure liquid fuel. No oxidizer involved. There's also the passenger module here, which we'll probably omit for now. How many are seated in here? 4? Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so something like that is fine. I do definitely want to get some fuel tanks on here. So do we just want to do an adapter for that? I mean, we could do a Mark III to 2.5 meter adapter, and it would go something kind of like this. I don't know. I'm looking at the reference image here. It definitely doesn't do that in reality. So I would prefer not to do that. I would like to have liquid fuel and oxidizer on here. That would be the ideal. So in that case, maybe we just go directly into fuel tanks. Checking in on the Kerbal size. Kerbal is approximately correct in terms of its size. So a Mark III to Kerbal would be good. I mean, this is absolutely huge, right? No doubt about that. So we could think about putting in... I mean, this could theoretically work. It would end up being something kind of like this in terms of sizing. Then we would need to have this be at some sort of an angle. We would need, bare minimum here, a pretty large tail fin. So where are we for tail fins? Yeah, these are all like Delta Deluxe winglets and stuff. We're looking for the actual tail fin. So tail fin. Like the aeroplane tail fin? It could work, but I think we'll go for the regular tail fin probably. Now those are a little on the small side. Okay, we'll go for the aeroplane tail fin. That'll be okay. And then we're of course going to need some wings here. So, we've got the aeroplane main wing. That's definitely not the one that we're going for here. We could simply go with like structural wings. These are teeny tiny. Okay. Small delta wings. Hang on. Let's do wing here so that we isolate out some of this noise. Oh yeah, that's the size of wing we're going for sure. Okay, we need much larger wings than this, obviously. So we could go with the aeroplane wings. We are making a kind of prototype version right now. So that is a theoretical possibility. Let's ditch these for the moment. Let's turn on mirror symmetry right now. Okay, mirror symmetry is not on. There we go. That's mirror symmetry there. So obviously this is not really the wings that I'm angling for here. We could just go for regular delta wings. Those feel a little small for this, to be honest. So we could have the delta wings be what starts it here. And then we could attach on something along the lines of an additional delta wing out here. And this is not where I want this to go. But like out here. And then just have it fill in like that. In reality, of course, it doesn't quite fit that shape. But we could certainly think about something along the lines of that. So I'm looking at the sizing of these wing connectors. This one is interesting. So we would put that in hypothetically about here. And then this guy would end up being flipped around and positioned like that. And then we could get a second wing connector. Well, actually, no, we need kind of like elevons over here, right? So a wing connector would go somewhere around, not the delta wing. We would just want the wing connector here. I'm looking at sizing for these. And these wings are not quite what I'm looking for. This one here, I would prefer it if it had a bit of a curve to it, kind of like the airplane main wing. Do we have such an option? I mean, we've got the swept wings here, but that's really not the sizing that we're looking for. Yeah, these don't really have curvature to them. So I think we're going to have to go with this for right now. We can definitely think about changing that later. Like I said, this is kind of a prototype version of the shuttle. So if we were to put this guy in here, about like this, We would then want to move this guy up. I have no idea what kind of aerodynamic characteristics we're going to have here. It's probably non-great, if I had to guess. Just to be on the safe side, we could strut these together. And I think that's not a terrible idea. So we would move this like that. We would move this to be out over here like this. And then we would strut this on like over here. Just to be on the safe side. There we go. Something kind of like that. So all of these are slightly connected. I would like to have this be strutted here as well, in theory. I have no idea what the solidity of these is going to be. Okay. So what do we have for elevons? Like elevon 3s? I mean, we kind of want like elevon 5s, I think. That's not really the shape that I want. We could use something like these. Aeroplane control surfaces here. That's kind of okay, I feel like. This is probably going to fly like absolute garbage because I'm really bad at building space planes. But we'll see. Okay, I want to make sure that these are snapped into position here. Okay, something kind of like that. Now let's turn off the snapping. So snapping off, and let's just get this adjusted to be about here. Looks quasi-okay. This is probably terrible. I want to be clear about that. Probably terrible. Really, we should have elevon 2s here. Right? Or like elevon 3s, or even 5s. Just thinking about sizing here. Yeah, like elevon 2s out over this direction. Right on the edge here. There we go. And then this would go up to like elevon 3, which would need to be rotated on around. About like that. Let's ditch this for now. And then we could think about like elevon 5s here. Actually, I feel like perhaps the aeroplane control surface is the way to go here. So something along the lines of this. I would like to move these guys up and in a little bit, and then move this one in a little bit here. This is probably going to be terrible. I expect this to fly like hot garbage. I'm really bad at this. Now, landing gear. We will need some landing gear on here, and to that end, I'm going to put a couple of drogue chutes like back here, with the idea being that the drogues are going to slow us down on landing. So we'll put in just a couple of drogues here. Something along the lines of... Let's turn snapping on. Somewhere along the lines of here. Okay. This is definitely mildly awkward here, but it kind of gets covered up by the wing, so I don't hate it. Now, landing gear. We definitely need landing gear, and we'll call this the Shuttle. This is definitely the Shuttle beta version. Okay, fantastic. There's going to be significant problems here. So we're going to need some landing gear on here for sure. Let's put on, for now, something like a large landing gear here. So we'll put that about there. This is actually clipped together, isn't it? We'll have to turn off the mirroring for now. And then we'll put another set back over here. Kind of like this, but we'll need to get them rotated to be angling the correct way, right? So rotated to be angling about like this. Now you might ask, why am I not doing this in the spaceplane hangar? And that's a reasonable question to ask, why we're not doing this in the spaceplane hangar right now. And the answer to that is because we're not launching this like a spaceplane. The space shuttle launches like a rocket. So we'll start these retracted. That'll be fine for now. So that's kind of a beta version. Now we're going to do an engine plate here. And that's going to be an EP37 engine plate. We're going to need 3 attach nodes here, so a triple attach node. Now, this is going to be wrong to some degree. I don't know how wrong it's going to be yet. We'll find out. We'll put on a triple mainsail here, and I want to be in radial symmetry now. There we go. Triple mainsail. We'll make them be compact just for now. Okay. Now, how long of a burn time is that? 49 seconds. Yeah, I'm not shocked. This is not a lot of fuel that is in the main tanks here. Now, we're going to put on a decoupler here. And we want this to be a pretty big decoupler. This is going to go right here in the center. Although maybe it should go the other way around. Let's put this out on the pad real quick. I want to know, does this fall off when we decouple it? Do we need to turn this around? Because I want that to go with. And I'm not sure which direction it actually detaches from. So let's find out. Out onto the pad we go. Any moment now. Okay, so here we are, and all we want to do is we want to decouple this. Well, that works. Cool, we'll accept it. So we'll revert this back to vehicle assembly. That was fully expected that would be reverted, of course. I don't necessarily love the tail fin here. I feel like we could definitely do a better job on the tail fin. I don't know that we have a better tail fin unlocked, though, right now. We can just look for fin here and double check that. Yeah. Basically, we've got this one, but that's teeny tiny. As far as size goes, it's about this or nothing. I guess it's okay for now. Do we want to move down our wings at all? Might be better off having it like back here. We should check center of mass versus center of lift. So our aerodynamic overlay and our center of mass. Yeah, that's a little bit better. We'll see how this flies. It's probably going to be terrible. Now, we do need to do our launching apparatus. This should be pretty quick and easy. So all we need here is some big orange tanks. So we're going to grab some... Actually, Jumbo 64s are kind of on the small side for this. We kind of need Kerbal size, right? Like, this should be technically even bigger than Kerbal. But it could work. We could definitely use Kerbal. We don't have the larger Kerbal sizes yet. So it's going to end up being like a number of these. So we'll grab these guys. Oh, that's definitely not going to work. Something along the lines of this. Then, of course, we're going to need a hemispherical fuel tank on top of this, or really a pointy one. Not this one, of course, but a pointy one would be ideal. Hang on. Let's check in... See, these are not what we're looking for. Fuel tanks. There we go. That tends to help if we're in the right category. We could definitely use something like a fuel adapter. We would need a big ol' fuel adapter here, though. I'm not sure if we have such a thing available at this time. We may well not. And that's okay if we don't. For now, we could just use an aerodynamic nose cone. So this would end up being a big old nose cone, and not that one either. What one would it end up being? Well, actually, let's just search for nose. And do we have a big enough one for this? So that's the advanced nose cone type A. That's the fairing. We could, I suppose, build one with a fairing. That would be kind of dumb. There we go. That one works, I guess. It's not great coloration-wise. Actually, we can make it orange. That kind of works. Cool. So now we're going to strap on a couple of side boosters. Now, these are... Are these meant to decouple? I can't remember. It's been a very long time since I've watched a shuttle launch. But we can do something along the lines of this for now. We're definitely... What's our current thrust to weight on this? 1.34? That's not terrible. Okay. We could definitely go for something like a... I'm thinking we go big here. Probably. We could go for a Pollux. Do we not have access to Clydesdales yet? Apparently we don't. Polluxes feel maybe a little on the small side. No, that's actually about right. Okay. Although they shouldn't probably be quite this far out. So let's go for a slightly closer decoupler. Something kind of like this. Then we'll attach them right on there. Right like that. We want to bring this on down so that these are at the same level, or very close to it, as these engines. They're a little lower right now, I think. That's about the same. So that'll do for right now. We do want to strut these together a bit. So I'm going to strut these guys up here. I'm going to strut them on the bottom as well. I'm also going to strut the tank into the actual shuttle here. I'm wondering if gimbaling on these engines would be enough to not actually have to tilt this. That would be interesting. Let's get that done. Phenomenal. Actually, we have this mirrored, don't we? We should not have these mirrored. Okay, so something kind of like that. Then we're going to want to run fuel in, because we want to be able to use this fuel, right? So this fuel would run in like so. So we run a fuel line like that. Then we merge these guys together. This decoupler would happen about here. Well, we could probably separate these separately. So it ended up being something kind of like this, right? In theory, we would never activate this engine plate. So that would be fine. This is definitely a beta version of the shuttle, no doubt about that. I'd like to see how it flies. I'm still betting that it's going to be absolutely dreadful on how it flies. It'll be very interesting to find out for sure. We don't have this in mirror symmetry. Okay, there we go. So obviously we can see our center of mass currently is out over here. And if we look at our center of thrust, it's here. So we're going to put this out on the pad. This is a simulated launch. 1000% this is simulated. We are going to revert this. I want to know how this thing flies. I'm not looking forward to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on kill rot, and I'm going to tell it just go straight up, and I'm not going to input anything. We're just going to see how it flies up. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so we can see that we definitely need to raise up these guys a little bit. No doubt about that. We've got ourselves a little bit of angling here. We'll put this on kill rot. We'll throttle up. And I'm not expecting this to go well. Jeb, Bill, Bob, you guys are very brave. And they're also simulated, so they're not that brave. This is a simulated launch. Let's go. Yeah, that's about what I expected. Okay. Yep, I'm deeply, deeply unsurprised by this. They actually survived. Okay, let's revert that back to vehicle assembly. That was hilarious, though. I love it. That's very, very, very unsurprising that that happened, to be clear. So, first things first, we're going to move this up one tick here. Let's put it back out on the pad. And you might ask why. The answer is because I'm trying to determine if we're at the right height level at this moment. We'll find out. Now, we're probably going to need like some form of a gantry to launch this off of. In reality, the SRBs are substantially lower than the engines here. Oh, this is exciting. All according to plan. Okay, yeah, let's do this correctly. So the way that we're going to end up doing this is we are going to have these guys be substantially lower. I didn't want to actually grab them. I wanted to use the move tool. And we're going to move them down to be down like this. I wish they were a little bit taller, but it'll do. Yeah, I think that we should probably have the Clydesdales for this. We don't have them, though, do we? I really don't think we have the Clydesdales. No. That would be ideal. We don't have access to that right now. We might be able to get it, though. Hang on. Let's save this. Let's head out of here. Just real quick. And I want to head into the... Well, we can probably afford to upgrade the R&D at this point. We've been quite profitable. We've been operating at a significant gain throughout the Mir program. So yeah, we can definitely afford to upgrade our R&D here, and I'm happy to do that. We're at 349.3 science, though, which is rough for us. This would get us access to the Clydesdale here, as well as a Vector, which was really what we want for the shuttle engines. Okay. Noted. What else do we really need for the shuttle? Advanced canards is not a huge deal. Big-ass delta wings would be good. And the spaceplane tail fin would be good, too. This would be a very useful thing for us. We'd also get the rocket fuel fuselages. So, I mean, that's over 1,000 science. We'll see about maybe putting together a science mission to get us out of the beta stage here. But for now, what we need to do is we need to get this thing so that it doesn't immediately crash, right? So we can set this up like so, and then we can do a bit of a structural gantry here. So launch stability enhancers, and we're going to have this be in mirror symmetry here. And we're going to have 2 of them about like this. What does that put us at? Do we sit on these then? That's what I want, is to sit on those. I'm not sure how these actually work for this exact situation. I don't usually use the launch stability enhancers, although I probably should, but I don't usually use them. So what do we have here? What does this start with? Okay, that's a good sign. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that told me what I needed to know, and that is that we need to lower this thing on down. No doubt about that. So what we need to do is we need to grab the move tool and move this guy right on, not that far down. Move this guy right on down to about, right about here or so. Let's turn it off of snapping. Right about there. Okay, so we'll save that, and we'll try this. Now, this does not fix our offset thrust issue in the slightest, right? No doubt about that. Our offset thrust issue is going to be a significant one. The real question is, how are we going to fix that? This is the thing that I've been dreading this whole time with this series, is building the shuttle. Okay, this is definitely a start. Once again, this thing is going to just completely arc over. As expected. Wow. That wing just kind of fell off in flight. That's a good sign, too. Okay, so we'll head on back to the vehicle assembly here. That wing falling off is a very good sign. No doubt about that. But I think it fell off because it hit the launch stability enhancer. Probably. So, to that end, I want to grab the rotate tool. Now, we know in reality that these were angled not at all like this. Okay. Do we need to be in global space here? No. We just need to not have these have symmetry then. Okay. So we're going to have to do these one at a time. That's exciting stuff. So we're going to have to rotate this guy. And what was the shuttle engines rotated at? I don't actually know off the top of my head, but we'll rotate it to somewhere around here-ish. This probably won't be right, but it'll take some experimentation. Oh, that fixes the rotation? Gross. That is absolutely gross. Okay, I was hoping we'd be able to duplicate it and have the same rotation on all of these. That further complicates matters. No doubt about that. I also want to... well, we'll see what that does. They're approximately correct. That's definitely the right way to do things, right? But I'm wondering if that's actually the right direction that we want to rotate this. It's not making sense in my head. I know that that's the way that it was rotated in reality, in that the engines were rotated away from the big orange tank. It doesn't make sense in my head as to why that would counteract the thrust, but it doesn't have to, as long as it actually works. To be clear, I don't expect this to work either. Let's see. Well, it's better. It's certainly rotating over less. No doubt about that. it's certainly rotating less. So let's head on back to the VAB. Do we need to rotate these further? Possibly. What happens if we rotate the engine plate instead of these guys? So if we go into place mode and we just place this on here, we ditch these, it might be easier to rotate the engine plate rather than the engines. So we do that, we grab the rotate tool, and we're going to rotate the engine plate here. It's going to be mildly awkward, but we could do something kind of like this. I don't know about that. Let's just leave it like this for now. It's definitely messy looking, but this is definitely the beta version, and I want to see what that does. How does this even affect the physics? I don't know. We'll find out. Let's get this loaded in and lifted off. It'll be fascinating to find out for sure. So we load in, eventually. There we go. And one question that I have here is, how long of burn time do we really have on this? We have a lot of delta V in here. Okay, that's fine. Throttle up, kill rot. That's too much. Okay, now we're going the other way. Cool. That's progress. That is real progress right there. So that is definitely indicative that we have rotated this too much. So we need to just try to dial this in a bit, right? So we'll bring this back. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to bring this back by 2 ticks. We'll see what this looks like. Yes, it's a mess back there. We'll get that cleaned up eventually. This is an engineering sample. That's what we've got going on here. So, to that end, oh man, do I classify this episode as part of the shuttle program? Because we're spending the whole time designing a prototype shuttle. But at the same time, this isn't the final shuttle, and this is really part of the Mir program. I'll probably continue this as part of the Mir program, but we'll see. Okay, so that was 2 ticks back. What happens here? Okay, we're back into going this direction. Noted. So we can just try to dial this in a little bit more then. We just need to find the correct angle here, and once we find it, we never touch it again. That's the idea anyway. I say as knowing full well that we're going to be changing from mainsails to vectors. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. So we need to bring this out 1 tick this way, because 2 ticks took us around. So we'll see what we're at here. Again, the physics of this doesn't really make sense. Actually, it does make sense in my head now that I think about it, because you're applying a sideways force at the bottom of the rocket, which is going to push the bottom of the rocket, essentially pushing the nose back away from the direction it wants to naturally tip due to the weight disparity. It's a weird way to go about it, to be clear. This is not the way I would design this. If I was the designer of this, I would design it like a traditional rocket and put the space shuttle on top of here. But maybe this is why I don't work at NASA. Kill rot. Throttle up. I kind of fired these in the wrong order. I'm going to revert that back to launch here. It was better, but we already had the turn started because I wasn't throttled up before I launched there. That was entirely my own fault. Let's see what we've got here if we fire those simultaneously. We also may want to consider thrust limiting our SRBs. I don't know that that's a great idea. Okay, we're throttled up. Okay, so this is still a little bit too much. So we'll need to revert this back to the VAB. We just have to dial in this angle. And I want to have this angle to a point where it's good enough by the end of this episode, ideally. So I'm going to try that. And we'll see if it needs more or less angle. This is just a matter of experimentation at this point. I don't have the capability of doing the math to figure out what angle this needs to be at, and KSP doesn't really tell us what angle it is at, so that's not very helpful. Okay. Anytime you want to load up, KSP. I know we're doing a lot of loading and unloading here, but you've got this. I'm confident. Throttle up, SAS on. And that's close. Hang on. Hang on. It's got kind of an awkward kick off to the side there at the very start. Oh, now we're losing attitude because the wing broke off. And so did an SRB. Now that's interesting. Why did an SRB detach there? Do we not have the strutting on one side? That could be a possibility. And that's probably, the SRB detachment is probably why the wing broke off, but we'll address the wings in a bit. Yeah, we don't have the strutting on both sides here. Okay. So we're going to make sure that the struts are in on both sides. That would be very helpful. Struts go there. We could also potentially strut the wing to the SRB. That might not be a terrible idea. So if we were to run a strut like this, although it's not there on the other side, so for now, let's not do that. I'm going to bring this ever so slightly back this way because we know that we were a little bit over much at the very beginning there. So let's launch this. We'll see if we have our detachment issue. We'll see if our wing breaks off again. The wing breaking off is unsurprising. I'm quite unsurprised by that. We would really prefer to get the big S delta wing on there. That would be preferable to what we have right now. But we'll see what we've got going on here. And as far as bringing this thing down in one piece goes, I'm not holding my breath on that either. We're going to have to do a deorbiting test, and that's probably going to break as well. Let's just set this to surface up. We launch a little bit sideways, but that's actually fine. This is acceptable. Okay. Let's take this up. The SRBs are going to burn out relatively soon-ish. Our thrust to weight is reasonably high. I mean, I don't like how this looks down here, but we could maybe disguise that in some way. I'm not sure how we would address that yet. Ooh, we're losing attitude here. There goes a wing. And now that guy detached again. That's very interesting. I definitely did not expect to lose an SRB there again. Losing the wing is a little bit less surprising. But we're actually dialing this in. We're getting close on this. This is going better than I expected, to be honest. So, why did we lose that SRB there? Oh, the struts aren't actually connected again. Okay, so we're just going to have to do these struts manually then. It doesn't like what we've got going on for the mirroring. Sure. We'll just do it something like that. The weight distribution should be minimal. Okay, let's try one more launch here. I'd love to do a re-entry test as well. I'm very non-confident in the structural integrity of these wings. I want to be clear about that. I'm extraordinarily unconfident in that. So, we'll have to address the wings. The wings are an issue, but I feel like we've got the engines down to a decent point. And that's very, very interesting. Because I expected this to be the complicated part. So we'll just go to surface up, and up we go. Yeah, with our gimbaling, we're able to hold attitude here. Gimbaling plus the control surfaces. So that's all fine. What's less fine is almost certainly the fact that these wings are going to disintegrate a bit. We don't have any, like, thermal treatment down here either. I mean, that's not really a thing in KSP, so we'll see how that ends up going. We can see our horizontal speed is going up when we're just going straight up, and that's just due to the offset thrust here. So that seems reasonably fine. I wonder what's going to happen, though. Oh, we're definitely pitching over here. There goes a wing. That's just due to aero stress. There goes the other wing. Okay. I'm wondering what happens when these SRBs burn out. Unfortunately, our wings aren't lasting long enough. Okay, that's a bit of a dizzy ride. Sure. So the wings are the core issue, right? No surprises here. Let's revert this back. And we're going to have to solve the wings in another episode. This has been a long one, and we're going to have a second engineering episode on our shuttle beta version here. The wings are obviously an issue, and we'll address that in the next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadowwolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.